Hi, and welcome to day 2 of week 10. Hopefully it will be a shorter video lecture than 30 minutes, but I hope you can understand why that first video had to be so long. And it's similar to what the type of lecture that we would have had in a face-to-face class. So for day 2 and understanding how to complete the second group assignment that's due, the team charter memo, you would open understanding concepts, but from the first understanding concepts, I did forget to open the team meeting link. And having your first team meeting or some way to reach out to your group that doesn't have to be synchronous or happening at the same time. Here's a list of suggestions. And again, we have that task list so you can look at it and decide who's gonna do what, because everyone needs to have their name next to something except for number 9, because everyone's responsible for that. And you can decide on who's your project manager. Yes, I'm going to assign a certain person to be project manager initially, but maybe, Kendra is not comfortable with being the project manager and Javier is. You still have Kendra's topic and problem to work through, but Javier is going to manage the group. Makes sense? You're not trying to figure everything out during this first team meeting, and you should set a time limit to that effect. And know that you should, for this first meeting, just be talking about, who's going to be the project manager. Is that going to stay the same as what I assigned? You're going to talk about mock scenario ideas or some of those things, but remember that you can turn it in by yourself. And then you're going to talk about the team charter. So that's what is going to happen during the first meeting, and that's it. You don't even have to talk about solutions to your topic, because that's for next week. Remember that I want you to take this project in stages like we do everything that we have for the semester, knowing that we will get there. I promise you we're going to get there. So we have understanding concepts open, and you still might be very confused about project 4. And that's where this slideshow maybe will clear up some confusion. And we have the purpose of the slideshow, what it's going to show you. We have those due dates once again. Those are super important. And there's 9 parts of project 4. And there are guidelines on Canvas for the team charter. So this slideshow is only going to discuss 2 through 9. In particular, the social justice component. This is optional, but someone does need to be assigned the social justice component assignment, which considers how can you take your topic, which is maybe, it is localized to a specific area, but is it considering still a social justice component the way these revised solutions kind of did? And it's not to say your final solution has to have the social justice component. It's just a way to open your group up to the idea of, can we consider social justice as we implement this solution? And it is a separate assignment, and it is one that is assigned individually, and it is on that task list. But whoever you assign it to, they're responsible for it. And then there's team progress reports throughout. There's 3 total, as we can see from the task list. There's 3 different progress reports, and they're due at different times. And different people are going to be assigned these group progress reports. So everyone, most everyone in the group will be turning in a progress report at some point. You've done one of these before. It should look something like this and be talking about the group has accomplished this and that. We're still far off from this and this. But this module we concentrated on blah, blah, blah. So steps 4 and 5, you're going to just repeat step 3. And we finally get to part 6, or the recommendation report rough draft. Thinking about what problem we're going to solve. Is the solution practical because it's based off a past solution? That's where the works cited and the research comes into play. And how and when will you complete the work? Because you have looked at past solutions and their timelines were about this, and you know you can complete it then. Sorry, my husband's doing yard work. Anyway, so the ultimate project has to be not a PowerPoint. It has to be completed via Sway or Prezi or Adobe Spark. Those are the 3 platforms you can choose from to create your P4 presentation, and that's it. A lot of people are intimidated by these 3 options because they've never used them and they don't know how to use them. But I do have resources to show you how, and they're all free. And there are YouTube tutorials that are short that can show you how to use them. Or you might get lucky and somebody in your group is using them. So, okay. There's a very intricate breakdown of the P4 draft and expectations. And this will be, when you go to turn in the rough draft, you'll see the same breakdown. So yeah, the video you create will have to be 1 minute or less. Any images you use throughout, I want them to be copyright-free images. So that means from Pixabay or WikiCommons or a similar website. You can't just Google search an image and use that. When you're telling me how you're going to implement your solution, how it's going to work, part of that is creating a schedule and a text-based write-up, but a schedule image, and that's a Gantt chart, and we'll get to that. And then I need an image of your budget. How is that really going to work? How is your solution going to work? You need to give me a clear and concise budget and then explain your budget in a write-up. You need to use MLA or APA throughout, and that means for your in-text citations, you need in-text citations in a lot of these sections to back up what you're saying. So when it comes to the visualizations and the images that are required throughout, there are some static and some non-static or kinetic images. So there's 5 total images that you and your group are going to have to create, or if it's something like an aerial or an image or a map of an area, it is okay to get a Google, to use Google for that. But everything else needs to be created by your group. For the problem section, you do need a data visualization about the problem. And for that, you can go back to project 2, see if there's any data visualizations you can use. If not, whatever, but if so, use what you've got. You do need one piece of clip art or a photo that depicts your solution. As I mentioned, you need a Gantt chart. And that is something like this. I don't want a visualization of Cody's going to turn in the rough draft at this date, and Heidi is going to submit the revision slides, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about the assignments I'm giving you. For the Gantt chart, I want to know what needs to be done for your solution. Your imaginary professional hat is still on. And when does each stage need to be completed and by who? So for your imaginary solution in your imaginary business or nonprofit, what do you need to do to help these displaced people or the school kids? What needs to be done and when does it need to be done? So your solution is actionable, viable, and will actually happen. Part of that is knowing how much money you need to complete the project. And that means looking up budgets from past solutions or from the school or whatever your problem is dealing with. And then someone in your group creates a budget that is, again, easy to read. I shouldn't be scrolling for a long time to read this budget. Someone needs to be responsible for the rough draft itself. That doesn't mean that Cody needs to do everything in the draft. That means Cody needs to make sure that everyone uploads their text and their part of it to whatever workspace you have, and then Cody submits it on time. I'm sorry, Cody, that I'm depending on your name. But yeah. Revision planning slides, that is a PowerPoint like you're seeing right now, in which someone will lay out after you submitted your rough draft, we should fix this, this, and this for our final. And only one person's responsible for that. And then your final draft, you fixed everything on your draft and it looks beautiful. I don't need to see the revisions in red or the deletions. It's a professional website kind of presentation. I just want to see that you address the issues that were part of the rough draft and that they're fixed. I'm going to show you a few other examples. You can see that I don't have to log in or get permissions. These are shareable links that work all the time. This one, they didn't include their letter to start with, because starting with your letter is very important, and that's part of the assignment. Remembering that student samples are never perfect. But this one had all the other elements that they needed. They had that Gantt chart that tells me when they're going to do what for their solution. Their budget is easy to read. And they gave a textual breakdown of that, a conclusion that is moving the audience to do something, their references. Let's look at a Spark one. So you can see Adobe Spark is very similar to Sway in that you're scrolling down to view the presentation. Again, this one didn't start with their letter of transmittal. I don't know where they had that. But I kind of like Spark better the way it shows the images and they don't always show up grainy. Sometimes Spark or Sway, I don't know, like when you zoom in on an image, it makes it grainy sometimes, like for this one a little bit. But Spark doesn't do that. It's cool how the way things kind of just pop up. And then let's look at one more, a Prezi one. I can say with real prejudice that I don't like Prezi, but I have it as an option because a lot of students have already used it. They're like, I'm comfortable with it, but okay, this one's gonna make me freaking log in here. A lot of the students who turn in a Prezi, the groups, it's not as good as the other ones, I will say. Or it just pops up like this or in a weird way, or I guess we can press present and it works, but it's just kind of too much and I don't want to do it. I don't really know what happened here. So I would suggest using Spark, Adobe Spark, or Microsoft Sway, which are free platforms. Once you're logged in as a USF student, it should be free for you. So that this slideshow will help you understand more of the intricacies of Project 4 and some of those due dates. Let's return back to understanding concepts. A reminder that I know everyone is going through, you have your life and things are really hard right now in particular, and people are in different time zones. I get that. However, this is a departmental assignment. I did not create this group assignment. This is what the department wants you to do. Essentially, this is your job as a student, and this is your online collaborative part of your job, and you've got to get it done. And if you have to do it using Google Docs and text, I don't care. I'm not going to discriminate because you never had a Zoom meeting, but group 3 always did Zoom meetings. Do what works for you in your group. but you need to get your stuff done. Now, the team charter memo, what the assignment you actually have to submit, there's a slideshow to help you understand that. I'm not going to go through it, but a team charter is a type of memo that helps you and your group decide on what is best for the group in terms of who is going to submit what and when. What obstacles might be in your way because someone is in, Czechoslovakia and another person's in London. I did have that happen on one group. And it's hard to get in touch with each other. There is a student sample, but that doesn't mean you're going to take the wording from these parts and you're just going to copy and paste it. I can tell if you've done that, and another group did it one semester and they got a 0 for the whole thing. You're looking at what the layout of it, they made it look like a memo. They included the checklist, and we can see that one group member did not pull their weight. And they filled out this part for them based on what they knew about them. And eventually I think they did get their phone number and stuff. But I do want to see bios about everybody. And these bios go back to those strengths and weaknesses that you listed for the mock scenario and use that to start building your bio. Because I want to know about you in relation to, in a professional sense, and for this project. I don't want to know all about you and that you collect little figurines or you like dogs. I want to know about your professional bio. How are you going to collaborate with each other? I want to know that. Who did you decide as your project manager? Are you going to go with the default or somebody else? What are your goals for the project? Personal goals. Some of these might be different because this is from a different semester, but overall, you make it look like a memo, use headers, be clear and concise. You need to show me a task list that shows 2 people assigned for a major and minor thing. And if someone never contributes, you just assign them to whatever the flip you want because they didn't get back to you. You're going to assign them to whatever, and they have to do that. And that, they can whine about it, but that's what happens. And that's what happens in professional world. If you don't show up for something, you just get submitted for something and maybe you didn't want to do it, but you got to do it. So this is what you're collaborating with your team. And maybe you're doing all that on the Google Doc. And one person is responsible for uploading. So let's go back out to the course modules and click on the assignment. And the easiest thing to do is you take all of this stuff and you put it on a collaborative Google Doc, and maybe you decide like 2 of each person is going to fill out 2 parts of it, or 1 part, I don't know, because everybody has to fill in their bio. But I also want to know, is your group going to submit everything in MLA or APA, particularly for your group assignments that require in-text citations? Are they going to be in MLA or APA format? And then is the last part of your assignment going to be a reference or works cited page? So I want to know that. I want to know the audience you think you'll be addressing. That means, who do you want to pretend as a group that you're working for and creating the presentation for? And then I have had groups where they create their own kind of persona, or they're like, we are a nonprofit and we're going to name ourselves and we're creating this presentation for our group mentality now. That's fine. And then kind of ideas about the problem and the solution without really getting into detail. These are bare bone ideas. But this is due on March 21st. I do not accept late submissions. And if I don't like the audience or kind of where you're going with it in terms of anything, I will let you know in the comments, and you're going to have to fix it before you move on. So if you have questions, please get in touch with me or with Ashlyn. She was my student last semester. She was in a group for Project 4 just like you. She might have insights I don't have. So she is a great resource to reach out to. She is the teacher assistant for the course. And if you have a question, you can WhatsApp her or WhatsApp me.